She said, "I'm not ready for love again," and the cowboy replied, "Then let me wait with you." Before we begin, let us know in comment where you're watching from. Clara Hay stood on her lonely porch, watching the prairie roll under the wind like a restless tide. A year had passed since she buried her husband. People said she was strong. Truth was, she simply didn't have time to fall apart. A small ranch, a stack of debts, and her young son Jacob kept her upright. Still, nights were brutal. Quiet can expose every wound. Late one dry afternoon, a stranger rode in. Daniel Walker, broad-shouldered, dust-covered, eyes carrying storms he didn't name. He asked for water. She offered supper. He fixed her gait without being asked. Their conversations were small at first, careful, but something warm flickered in the spaces between words. That evening, Jacob found a folded note hidden in a drawer. The handwriting wasn't her husband's. Clara froze when she saw it. She had hoped this secret would stay buried. Now it threatened to reshape her entire world. Clara slipped the note into her apron before Jacob could ask questions. Her hands shook. Daniel noticed, but he didn't press. He only watched her with that quiet patience that made her uneasy and strangely safe. After supper, Jacob ran outside to chase fireflies. Clara washed dishes. Daniel dried them. It felt too natural, too soon. She kept distance in her voice, but her heartbeat didn't obey. When the last dish clinked into place, Daniel finally spoke. "You look like someone carrying more than one burden." She stiffened. "Everyone out here carries something." He nodded, accepting the wall she'd built, but his eyes said he saw straight through it. Later that night, after Daniel set up his bedroll under the elm, Clara opened the note alone by lantern light. The message was short but heavy. "He's coming back. Be ready." Her breath caught. No name, no signature, but she knew exactly who wrote it. Outside, Daniel's silhouette shifted near the barn, as if he sensed something stirring in the dark. The past she tried to bury was moving again. Clara barely slept. The note lay folded beneath her pillow, like a warning with teeth. Dawn found her already in the yard, feeding the chickens just to keep her mind still. But fear has a way of whispering louder than chores. Daniel joined her, boots crunching on dry dirt. "Rough night?" he asked. She didn't answer. He didn't push. Jacob came out rubbing his eyes, and the moment softened. Daniel lifted the boy onto the fence rail and pointed at the sunrise. Jacob laughed. Clara felt the ache of how easily Daniel fit, like a piece she didn't dare admit she needed. But comfort can distract from danger. By noon, a rider passed on the far ridge. Not close, not casual. Watching. Then gone. Clara froze. Daniel saw her reaction. "You know him?" he asked quietly. Her throat tightened. "I wish I didn't." Daniel's jaw set. The kind of silent promise only men with a rough past make. "You're not alone here," he said. That should have eased her. It didn't, because the man on the ridge wasn't coming for help. He was coming for claim. And he believed Clara still belonged to him. The ridge rider didn't return that day, but the memory of his silhouette clung to Clara like dust that wouldn't wash off. By evening, her nerves were tight again. She cooked stew with a restless hand. Daniel noticed every tremor. When Jacob fell asleep, Daniel stepped onto the porch where she stood staring into the open dark. "Clara," he said, voice steady, "who is he?" She hesitated. Truth cost something, but silence would cost more. "Eli Barnes," she finally whispered. "I knew him before I met my husband. He was a man you could say no to. When I left, he said he'd come back for what he believed was his." Her voice thinned. "He thinks Jacob is his blood." Daniel didn't flinch. "Is he?" "No," she said sharply. "Not even close." But Eli never cared about truth, only control. Daniel's eyes hardened. If he rides down that hill again, he won't be the one choosing how this ends. Clara's breath caught. She wasn't sure what scared her more, Eli returning, or how much she wanted to trust this stranger's promise. A gust of wind pushed through the yard, bending the tall grass as if something was moving through it. Daniel stepped off the porch, hand near his holster. Something, or someone, was out there Daniel moved into the yard, stepped slow, measured. Clara held her breath. The prairie was open land, but darkness made it feel tight, watchful. Jacob slept inside, unaware of how close danger might already be. A shape stirred near the barn. The horses snorted, unsettled. Daniel lifted the lantern, its glow pushing back the dark just enough to reveal no rider, no intruder, only a knife. It sat wedged into the barn door, blade sunk deep. Clara's knees weakened when she saw the strip of cloth tied around the handle. A familiar pattern. Eli's bandana. Daniel pulled it free. "He was here," he muttered, close enough to touch the walls. Clara closed her eyes, shame and fear crashing together. "He wants to scare me. That's who he is." "He wants ownership," Daniel said. "Fear's just a leash." She swallowed hard. "He won't stop." Daniel turned to her, jaw set, voice low. "Neither will I." For the first time, she felt someone standing between her and the past she ran from. Not pity, not curiosity, protection. But Eli wasn't a man who attacked directly. He liked slow poison, quiet threats. And tonight, he proved he knew exactly where she lived, and how easily he could walk right up to her door. Clara didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with the lamp burning low, fingers woven tight. Every creak of the house felt like a warning. Daniel stayed awake too, leaning against the doorframe, eyes fixed on the yard as if he expected Eli to step out of the darkness at any moment. "Eli won't hit tonight," Daniel finally said. He already made his point. Clara looked up. "Then why am I still shaking?" "Because you've been fighting him alone for too long." The honesty cut deeper than fear. She hated how true it was. Near sunrise, Jacob padded into the room, hair messy, still warm from sleep. He climbed into Clara's lap, unaware of knives, bandanas, or men who didn't understand the word no. Daniel watched the two of them, something protective tightening in his expression. Clara noticed, but before she could make sense of the shift, hoofbeats echoed faintly from the far ridge. Slow, deliberate. Daniel grabbed his rifle and stepped onto the porch. Clara followed, heart climbing her throat. A lone rider sat at the crest of the hill, not moving, just watching. Daniel lifted the rifle halfway. The rider turned his horse and vanished over the ridge. "That wasn't Eli," Daniel said. "He rides heavier." Clara's stomach dropped. "Then who is it?" Daniel gave her a hard look. "Someone who doesn't want Eli to finish the job alone." Clara felt the ground shift beneath her. One threat was enough. Two meant someone wanted a war she never asked for. Daniel stayed on the porch a moment longer, jaw tight, eyes narrowed at the empty ridge. Inside, Clara poured water into a tin cup, just to keep her hands busy. "Eli never had allies," she said. "He scared off everyone he rode with." Daniel stepped in. "Then this new rider isn't with him. But he's interested. And interest means trouble." Jacob played quietly on the floor, stacking wooden blocks. The normalcy of it made Clara's heart ache. This child deserved peace, not shadows at sunrise. Daniel set his rifle on the table. "I need to know everything, Clara. Don't leave out a single piece." She hesitated, then opened the wound fully. "Eli didn't want marriage. He wanted ownership. When I left him, he swore he'd take something from me. Something that mattered more than my life." Daniel frowned. "Jacob?" Clara nodded once. "He thinks taking my son is justice." Daniel's face went from concern to steel. "Then he'll face me first." She met his eyes, and the truth shook her more than fear. She didn't want him to leave. For the first time in years, she didn't want to face this alone. Then came a knock on the door. 3 slow taps. Someone stood on the other side. Daniel reached the door first. Clara grabbed Jacob and pulled him behind her skirt, heart thudding so hard it hurt. Daniel lifted one hand, signaling her to stay back, then opened the door just enough to see the visitor. A young man stood there, dusty, pale, hands raised. "Don't shoot," he said, voice shaky. "I came to warn you." Daniel didn't lower his guard. "Name?" "Caleb Barnes," he answered. "Eli's younger brother." Clara's breath snapped cold. Caleb saw it. I'm not here for him, he said quickly. I left Eli months ago. He's lost his mind over you. And now he's got another man riding with him. A hired gun. Daniel's eyes narrowed. The rider on the ridge. Caleb nodded. Eli paid him to take the boy. Said you don't deserve to keep what's his. Clara felt Jacob cling tighter to her leg. She hated that a child could sense danger so easily. Daniel stepped forward. Why warn us? Because Eli crossed a line, Caleb said, and I won't be part of it. Clara studied him. His fear wasn't fake. His shame wasn't either. What does Eli plan? Daniel demanded. Caleb swallowed hard. He's coming before sundown. Both of them. And they're not planning to talk. Daniel's voice dropped to steel. Then we'll be ready. But Clara wasn't sure readiness would be enough. Sundown was coming fast, and Eli never arrived quietly. The hours before sundown felt like waiting for a storm you could smell, but not see. Daniel checked the rifle twice, then handed Clara a small revolver. You know how to use it? He asked. I learned a long time ago, she said. Because of him. Caleb stayed near the barn, pacing, guilt written all over him. He kept muttering that Eli wasn't always a monster, that something broke in him years ago. Daniel didn't bother arguing. Broken or not, Eli was coming. Jacob sat at the table drawing crooked horses on scrap paper. Clara kissed his head, forcing her voice to stay calm. When Daniel tells you to hide, you do it fast. Understand? Jacob nodded, wide-eyed but brave. As the sun slid lower, Daniel and Clara stepped onto the porch. The sky burned orange, the kind of light that made the land look peaceful, right before peace was taken away. Then hooves thundered. 2 riders crested the ridge. Eli in front, lean, sharp-eyed, wearing that same cruel grin she remembered. Behind him, the hired gun, broad, silent, coat flapping in the wind. Eli reined in hard. Clara, he called, voice slick with old ownership. I've come for my boy. Daniel stepped forward. He's not yours. Eli smiled wider. Then let's settle that today. Clara felt it. The moment before everything breaks. Eli dismounted first, boots hitting the dirt with that same swagger Clara once mistook for strength. The hired gun stayed in the saddle, scanning the yard like he was already choosing targets. Daniel stepped off the porch, rifle steady. This ends without blood if you ride away now. Eli laughed. You think she wants you? You think this is your family? Clara was mine before you ever showed up. Clara walked forward, surprising both men. Her voice didn't shake this time. I was never yours. And Jacob is not your claim. Not now. Not ever. Eli's face twisted. You're lying. No, Clara said. I'm done being afraid. Eli reached for his pistol. The hired gun moved too. Daniel fired first. The hired gun toppled from his saddle, hitting the dirt hard. Caleb shouted something, running toward Eli just as Eli drew and aimed at Daniel. Clara lifted a revolver, fired once. Eli staggered, shock breaking across his face before he collapsed. Silence. Heavy. Final. Caleb fell to his knees beside his brother. Tears, real ones, cutting through dust on his cheeks. Daniel lowered his rifle, breath shaking loose from his chest. Clara dropped the revolver, suddenly aware of how hard she was trembling. Jacob ran from the house and wrapped his arms around her waist. Daniel stepped close, not touching her, just standing beside her like the future might actually be theirs to shape. For the first time in years, Clara felt the weight lift. The past had come for her, and she had survived. Sometimes the frontier breaks people, and sometimes it gives them a second chance. Clara didn't find love by searching for it. She found it by refusing to run anymore. And Daniel, he stayed because he saw something worth protecting, maybe even worth love. Angie, if you want more stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe.